And then we will be coming on during halftime of the Kings-Lakers game, and then after the game as well, right here on YouTube. We have a lot to talk about, so don't go anywhere because Jerry Reynolds is standing by. And holy moly, Jim Bob Boley is with us. Jerry Reynolds. Jerry, it's always fun when we get ready to have a Kings and a Lakers game. Hard to believe that the Kings are 6 games over 500. The last time that happened, Jerry, you were running at about a 5.5-minute mile, smoking cigars. It's been a while, that's for sure.
Boy, it sure has, and you're right. I mean, my gosh, I know the fans are just so excited as they should be, not just because of the record, but the team is so much fun to watch. Obviously they've had their ups and downs, and they will going forward because it's not a finished product, but it's a product you can certainly get behind.
I don't know where the Kings would be without Domantas Sabonis, Western Conference Player of the Week, well-deserved. I mean, I don't know if there's too many players in the league, period, that have had a better season than Sabonis, Jerry.
Well, if it's not Nikola Jokic, I don't know who would you could say that about. I mean, I think he's been as impactful as about any player other than him, because of all the things he does, not just scoring and rebounding, but the assist. And really, he sets more screens, and I think that's an underrated part of his game. He frees up more shooters with his screens than any big in the league by far.
That's another aspect of his game that I don't think gets talked about much, and that's something that the Kings have sorely lacked over the years. Is that a skill set? What is that, a commitment? What is that, Jerry?
Well, I think it's a skill set because you have to be able to take some punishment and get yourself ready for it. But definitely, it's one of those things where anybody could do it. I think it's a skill anybody could learn, but really, what you find, or I've found over the years, that a lot of guys just don't want to do it because they get hit, they get hurt. Just like a lot of guards don't want to fight over screens because it's painful. Same thing, or take the punishment. So that's where you separate a lot of players.
Jerry, the last time the Kings and the Lakers played, less than 2 weeks ago, the Lakers had been playing their 3rd game in 4 nights. They were on the 2nd of a back-to-back, and they came into Sacramento, and they put a lot of points on the board. They scored 136 points and shot over 60%. So my question is, I get the fact that the Kings have played very well since then. I get the fact they've won 4 in a row. They're 6 games over 500. I'm just wondering if there's going to be any type of defense played in this game tonight.
Well, there's no reason to expect it. I mean, honestly, I'm hopeful that there'll be better defense and the Lakers will play worse offense. I mean, that's what you hope for. But the evidence so far is this is a very poor defensive team.
Yes.
And certainly one of the elite offensive teams. And that's why they won as much as they have, is because their offense, for the most part, is slightly better than an inept defense. And so if I know Coach Brown and his staff certainly understand that, and if they could somehow improve defensively by 2 or 3 points a game, they'd certainly be in a position to move up the ladder even a little bit. And quite honestly, if they don't, I think they might start sliding down the ladder a bit.
I hope that's not your wife asking you to do something in the middle of our very important, show. That would really
it wouldn't be a surprise to me, but that's okay.
I was thinking about this, and we've been asked this, and I know that you probably have thought about this too, but the last major trade, and I'm talking about where you took a franchise piece and traded it for a franchise piece, really was the trade that Mitch Richmond to Washington for Chris Webber. Do you think the trade that the Kings made, and I still think it's early, I still think we have to wait, but based on what we know today, do you think the Halliburton for Sabonis trade, and there were other pieces to it, but those were the main guys. Does that remind you of that trade that the Kings made back in the late 90s?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I don't know that it's as good because you gave up a really terrific young piece.
Yeah.
I felt like giving up the rights to Billy Owens for Mitch Richmond wasn't that much of a risk at the time. I mean, it could have been, but it was unproven, so you didn't worry about it as much. And then later, uh, when Jeff traded Mitch, basically, and he knew Mitch was on the downslide, and probably just had a couple of good years left, which was about right. And then getting a Chris Webber in the middle of his career. So I think that's why it's different. It's had as much impact.
Yes.
I agree with that. I think it's had every bit as much impact. You could make that case, but like I say, the differences in what you gave up to get what you got.
Jerry, the West really isn't that good this year. I mean, I'm looking at a lot of the teams that are losing 7 of 10, 8 of 10. There's a lot of teams struggling in the West right now. Some teams are dealing with injuries, but then there are other teams. I mean, you want to talk about injuries. I mean, you want to talk about the Phoenix Suns without Devin Booker. I mean, they look terrible when Devin Booker's not on the floor. That's just one example. But there are a lot of teams that are playing well below expectations this year in the Western Conference.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think the Warriors and certainly the Phoenix Suns come to mind there. I think the Timberwolves have underachieved.
Yep.
To me, clearly the Denver Nuggets are the tops in the West, and I think that
Better
may
than
stay
Memphis?
that way. The only other team, Memphis, is the only other team I think maybe right now. Those are the two top teams. I would say that the Pelicans, if they could ever get Ingram and Zion Williamson healthy for a 20-game stretch, they might scare those other two. But I'm
Yep.
not sure anybody else can.
I mean, you look at the Clippers, they're 500 at 23 and 23. And the question with the Clippers is you never know who's going to be on the floor. The Warriors, 22 and 22. Yeah, they've had some injuries, Steph Curry, but, their disparity on the road this year is just mind boggling, home and on the road. They're 17 and 5 at home and only 5 and 17 on the road. That's mind boggling to me, Jerry. It really is.
It really is. I mean, this is a team that's proven they could win on the road in the past. You'd think they could now, but as of today, they're just not a real good team. They're not a consistently good team, and they've had now Wiggins has been back, Curry's been back. I mean, I think I'll be surprised if they don't get it together better. I'd be less surprised by them getting it together and making a run than I would the Clippers because it's just so hard to count on Kawhi Leonard at all, even though he's playing he's playing now some, and then Paul George is out. So, it's been like that with them for several years now. Just both guys never play at the same time for more than a couple of games.
Well, you have talked about this. I have talked about this. The Kings still have been very blessed this year on the injury front. As far as Sabonis's injury, I don't really consider it an injury because it hasn't kept him off the floor. We're talking about games missed due to player injury. And that's the only thing right now that I see derailing the Kings. I think if they lose Sabonis for any period of time, Jerry, they are in deep, deep trouble. I would say the same thing about Fox. Those are two guys they just cannot afford to lose. And if one of those are out of the lineup for 2, 3, or 4 weeks, this team is going to have trouble winning games, I think.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I don't think there's any doubt. I knock on wood here, and
Yep.
we've talked about this. The Kings have been the healthiest team in the NBA.
Yep.
And I think sometimes we as fans take that for granted, but and I think the Kings could play for a couple of games without anybody. Probably less Sabonis, but I mean they can play without Fox. They did it for a game, or two, but those are the two guys that have got to stay healthy for probably 75 games. And your point about Sabonis, and you're right. I mean, you can't count the injury for guys playing and playing like he's playing. Having said that, probably 90% of the players in the NBA wouldn't be playing with that very same injury. So in today's game, I mean, honestly, in the middle 80s when I came to the league, that type of injury everybody played with.
That's right. Well, I also think in this day and age, I think that's really good for the teammates to see that. I mean, I think anybody that's thinking about maybe not playing because of a 50-50 type of an injury, if you're seeing your best player go out and play under what he is playing, the type of duress on his thumb, I would think that would motivate your ass a little bit.
Oh, I think so. I mean, I think you look at the top players. I mean, when you have the Nowitzkis or LeBron for most of his career and Jordan, those kind of guys played every game they could play.
Yep. How
and
about
it's
John
pretty hard
Stockton and Karl
for.
Malone?
Yeah, yeah, they're great examples. I mean, and so it's a little harder for when your leaders and your best players are playing every game they can play. It's a little hard to buy into guys, secondary players taking games off for a fatigue or a sore toe or this kind of stuff.
Jerry, you and I were blessed to be on the call for LeBron James' first ever game. And you made a comment during the telecast that, barring injury, we might be watching a guy that will go down as the greatest player in the history of the game. He's coming very close to being the all-time scoring leader in the NBA. What he's doing right now on a nightly basis at age 38 is unfreaking believable. It's Tom Brady like. And I know Tom Brady this year wasn't good, but the point I'm trying to make is look at the Super Bowls that Brady won in his 40s. What LeBron James is doing right now, to me, is incredible.
I don't think we'll ever see another like him. I
Mm-hmm.
really don't. And I've of course said that before. And you can easily make the case that he's the greatest player to ever play. I mean, I think that, there's others. I've always said, I think, in my opinion, maybe if you took the best 3 years of Jordan's career and the best of LeBron's career, you might take Jordan. But, and you certainly could justify it. But when you look at the best 15 years of either guy, I mean, you can't put his numbers, LeBron's numbers, they're just off the charts in his winning. And we've said before, I still say the greatest thing I've ever seen from LeBron was the year he took Cleveland to the finals and lost. And the second best player was Mo Williams on that team. I
Yep.
mean,
Yep.
without LeBron, that was a 30-win team without
That's
him
right.
on.
Mike Brown was the coach of that team too, if you remember. And
Yeah.
Michael Malone was on that staff with the Cleveland Cavaliers that year. The thing that jumped right out at me the first time I saw LeBron in person is, for that age, he had an NBA-like body. Physically, he was able to compete, which you just don't see very often. The only other player that I can remember, and I'm doing this off the top of my head, during that era when he came into the league, Amari Stoudemire had an NBA-type body. That just doesn't happen very often. But that's when LeBron came onto the court that night, Jerry. I think you and I both said, wow, this kid's 18 years old. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I can only think of 3 or 4 18-year-olds in my lifetime that you could put in that class. Certainly Jabbar, or Lou
Mm-hmm.
Alcindor at the time, George McGinnis, who didn't really develop but he was there every bit a man child. Spencer Haywood is another one who at 18 was just marvelous, very similar to Stoudemire, probably
Mm-hmm.
a little better at 18 actually. But you're right. He but he just kept getting better, and he was a more versatile player than any of them. He really was good with the ball when these others kind of needed somebody to get them the ball. And I thought that I always remember we talked about him a little bit before. I remember you asked me how good I thought he was because I'd seen him in some McDonald's All-Star games and saw him in some practices. And I remember telling you, I said, I think he's the best I've ever seen. I remember just watching the practice with my buddy Keith Drum, who was scouting for the Kings at McDonald's, and we turned to each other and said, "My God, there's never there's never been anything like this."
Yeah, a couple of people are saying Moses Malone too. Yeah, we got to add Moses
Yeah, that's a
Malone to
great
that
one.
list.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
There was a guy when I was working in Illinois. Forgive me, but he was kind of what was his name? Marcus Liberty was his name. Liberty.
Yeah, Marcus
Okay,
Liberty
well,
was a.
he came in not into the NBA, but I remember when he was in high school, people were talking about him the way that people were talking about LeBron years later, but nothing ever happened with Marcus Liberty. But I remember the hype. The thing about LeBron that struck me is he had the hype for years and years going through high school, right? And he came into the NBA, and right from day one, he lived up to the hype. That was so amazing to me.
Yeah, he just. I mean, like I said, the first game was against the Kings, who are one of the elite teams in the league. He's an 18-year-old, and he scored 25 points against elite defender Doug Christie, basically. And
Yeah.
yeah, and every year, like you point out, Marcus Liberty. Every year, there's a high school player that's a sure thing that isn't. I always remember Felipe Lopez out of New York City was the consensus number one player in the draft, or was in the country and all that. And of course, these were seniors, but
Mhm.
then he made the league, but didn't really do much. And that's the it's just
Yep.
he's a rarity, on
Yep.
every level. And of course, often the experts, as we all know, get it wrong. The best player in high school or something turns out to be not very good in the long haul. And I always remember, take show, your fans know how old I am. When I came out of I was still in high school, but the number one player in the nation in 1956 was a guy named Nolden Gentry. And
Mm.
on the second team of the top five was a guy, two guards. One was Oscar Robertson, and the other was Jerry West. There were
Wow.
five guys. There were
Wow.
five guys who I can't remember any of their names, by the way. So that shows you sometimes trying to predict the future is really not very relevant.
Larry Bird didn't come into the NBA at 18. He went to Indiana State. All right. But what type of player was Larry Bird around that age?
Well, at 18, he was awfully good. He was a real late developer. As a sophomore in high school, he's about 5'11". As a junior,
Mhm.
he's 6'3" and 160 pounds, and really wasn't recruited by anybody other than me. I tried to recruit him at West Georgia when I was down there.
Wow.
And then he grew 4 inches during the summer, and then was on everybody's recruiting list.
Sure.
Averaged 33 and 18 or something in high school, and then grew a couple more inches after, because he was a little over 6'9" really at the end. But no, he was a late developer, much like actually Michael Jordan was, Tim Duncan. So many of the greats were late developers. Adetokounmpo now and Jokic. You
Yep.
can you can go on, but Larry was more like they were.
Looking forward to a busy day right here on YouTube coming up. We will, for the first time this season, join you at halftime of the Kings Lakers game, and then we'll come on after the game. Ryan in Sacktown will be joining us, and he joins us right now. And it's so interesting to look back, Ryan, and talk about players that not only meet expectations, exceed expectations, but again, Jerry and I were so fortunate to watch LeBron James in his first ever NBA game, and we were fortunate to go to the mailbox every week and get a royalty check for the commercial we did for Nike. That was maybe the best
Oh
part
yeah.
of that night. Jerry, we didn't even really talk about that. The hell with LeBron playing his first game. The best part, the thing that we remember the most, was going to the mailbox every week.
True joy. True joy.
Ryan, how are you, buddy?
Doing great. How you guys doing today?
Doing good. Looking forward to the game
Good.
tonight because, the last time they played was very recently, less than 2 weeks ago, and it was a shootout. It was a good old-fashioned shootout, 136 to 134.
It sure was, Grant, and I would expect much of the same tonight. In the last 4 games, the Kings have scored over 130 or 132 points or more.
Yep.
And the key tonight to me is to keep Harrison Barnes going. He has been excellent and has emerged as that third option. And stop Thomas Bryant down low. He killed us last time in Sacramento.
That's a great point. Thomas Bryant was a guy that really destroyed Sacramento, Jerry. I mean, he maybe was as important as any player on the floor that night for the Lakers.
Yeah, he really was good, and he's been good. I mean, now that was probably his best game, but since he's gotten healthy, he's really had a lot to do with their making a move, and
Mhm.
he gives them another guy that they can count on every night, for double figures scoring and close to double figures rebounding. So the Lakers have gotten better, and Bryant
Yep.
is a big part of the reason.
Ryan, the Lakers are 20 and 24, and that's not that far out of where Oklahoma City is. And we're going to talk about Oklahoma City in a minute. But the point I'm trying to make is even the losses, and the Lakers have won 6 of 10, but even their losses have been very close, with the exception of a game where LeBron did not play. The Lakers now, to me, are not the same team that we saw weeks ago and a few months ago. This Lakers team, I think right now, when you look at their record, they're a better team than their record shows. That's what I see in them right now with how they're playing.
Yeah, Grant. I think when Anthony Davis went out, they were, even with Anthony on the floor to a degree, they were looking a little bit fragmented, but this unit's come together and they're playing hard. They've played close games, as you said. They've got screwed by the refs in a game or two. LeBron was very vocal about that. And so, yeah, they're putting it together. And LeBron is as playing at an elite level as he always has.
Somebody said Kevin Garnett too. No, not Kevin Garnett. Kevin Garnett was not ready to play when he came into the league, and was not even close to the players that we mentioned. He ended up being the real deal, but not when he first came into the league. Jerry, would you agree with me on that about Kevin Garnett?
Oh yeah, Kevin and Kobe, Tracy McGrady, they were all truly greats, but they weren't great at 18.
Yeah.
They struggled for a couple of years, which is LeBron's the first, one that just stepped in and was great automatically. As you mentioned, Stoudemire was awfully good. Moses Malone
Yep.
was awfully good right away. Those guys were awful, but LeBron was all-star caliber first year, and that's the one and only that I can think of.
Hey, if you're joining us on the stream and you're new, we certainly would appreciate it if you would hit the like button. Also, if you have not yet subscribed, please subscribe. It would mean a lot to us. Don't forget that we are going to be on at halftime, and then we will be on after the game. Cody chimes in on the chat line and says that Malik Monk didn't play. Yeah, he didn't. Anthony Davis didn't play for the Lakers either. So, again, I understand, but Malik Monk is playing tonight. The Kings, I don't believe, have any players listed on the injury front. I think this is a big game for the Lakers. I think this is a bigger game for the Lakers than it is for the Kings because, at some point at 20-24 at home, the Lakers cannot afford to lose home games right now. They have put themselves in a position where they don't have a margin for error. So I'm not saying the Kings won't win tonight, but I will say this, Ryan. I'll be surprised, Ryan, if we don't see the Lakers A game tonight. Now, if the Kings play an A game and the Lakers play an A game, I think the Kings will win because I think they have a better team. But I'd be surprised if we don't see the good version of the Lakers tonight.
Grant, I completely agree with you. The only scenario in which we wouldn't see the A version is if LeBron doesn't play. He's listed as questionable with a left ankle injury, but all indications point to him playing. And they're going to get the Lakers' best shot. Like I said, they have been very feisty. They've been playing hard. They're getting good production from their bench, and it's going to be a good shootout for the Kings and a good test.
Jerry, the one thing that you keep on talking about is the road record. The Kings are now over 500 on the road, and that's pretty impressive. It really is.
Yeah, I think there's only about 3 teams that you can say that about, and that's the big question I have with the Warriors. Their road record is just awful, and until they can get better on the road, it's going to be hard for them to move up the ladder. And to your point about the Lakers, I think this is a big game for them.
Yep.
Because at some point to move up, they have to beat teams that are ahead of them.
Yep.
And as simple as that. And the Kings certainly, it's an important game, but they have. The record they have is a record they have. But the Lakers are the ones trying to get into playoff contention, and so they have to start beating teams and put together a win streak. I'll add one other thing. I think Dennis Schroeder's been very important for them for 2 reasons. He's a pretty good player, number one, and a pretty good playmaker. Gives LeBron a little rest now and then, but also gets the ball out of Patrick Beverley's hands, which
That's a good point.
I think's double good.
Yeah. The Kings after this will go home, and they have a homestand with Oklahoma City, Philadelphia, Memphis, and Toronto. And I made this comment on my show yesterday on Listen App. I bet you the vast majority of NBA fans wouldn't be able to name one player on the Oklahoma City Thunder other than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Oklahoma City is playing really well right now, and they have beat very good teams both at home and on the road. One of those home wins was a 150-point outing against the Boston Celtics. I'm not jumping ahead past tonight's game, but anybody that looks at Oklahoma City's record and goes, the Kings playing Oklahoma City, don't think like that. The Thunder right now are playing very good, Jerry. I don't know if you've watched them play at all.
I have, and they are playing very well. They've been in about every game, and they've got some talent, with not just Gilgeous-Alexander, who is honestly playing as good as anybody.
Yes.
Just about in the league, short of 2 or 3 guys.
Yeah.
But then the Giddy, the Australian point guard, he's really coming into his own. He's a double-double guy every night, assist. And very much like a Halliburton, probably not quite the shooter, but every bit the distributor and playmaker. And then Lou Dort, that guy's he's a warrior. He can score and take guys out, but they're on the right path, and that's just without their second round pick, Holmgren, who obviously is rehabbing, and you'd think he'd give them something of real significance going forward.
They love Jerry Reynolds. Said you came over after game to take pictures with us doing a commercial during postgame. Jerry, you leaving me doing commercials, when we need to be preparing for the rest of the postgame show. Jerry, you left me hanging a couple of times. No, actually, there is nobody better than Jerry Reynolds with the fans, and we appreciate that very much. Thank you for saying that. We always, and I speak for Jerry because I think we all do this, or at least I know I did, and I know Jerry did, and Gary Gerald the same way. We're nothing without the fans. And I really mean that. And I've talked about this with Ryan a lot. The fans are the most important part of this element. The fans are why there is professional sports. Without the fans, I never had a career. Jerry didn't have a broadcasting career. Jerry wouldn't have made the money that he made throughout his basketball tenure without the fans. And so we always remember that. I will tell you that. We always had that right in the front of our heads. And Jerry, we were blessed to work in a community where the fans were truly special. And you and I travel around the country, and every city thinks they've got the best fans. I don't know who's got the best fans, but I don't know if there are more loyal fans than Sacramento. I will say that. I don't know if I've ever run across more loyal fans than the Sacramento Kings fans.
Well, they've proved it, and my take on that always was, I just considered it an honor that somebody would want my picture. And first of all, and I still feel that way, if you really want my picture, I'm just more than happy and proud to take it with you. But, that's,
Hey,
but you're right. I mean, just can't say enough good things, but any athlete or person involved in professional sports to not really take it personal and enjoy it's a big mistake.
Hey, Brian, let me explain something to you. You're right. The owners do pay us, but let me explain something to you, Brian. Without the fans, okay, the owners don't have any money to pay us, okay? Without the fans, all right, the owners don't have money to go out and get players. Without the fans, the owners are in a precarious situation. Yeah, the value of their franchise goes up, but they lose a lot of money annually. So if you don't think that the fans drive every aspect of sports, you're delusional, okay? If the fans don't watch the games on TV, the networks don't get the advertising revenue. If the fans don't go to the games, owners lose money. They can't afford to pay their players. And if fans aren't part of the game, then the owners don't have money to pay their announcers very much. So if you don't think that the fans are the driving force behind the economics of sports, you're living in a foreign world that I have no idea about. I mean, I don't know what, that's not a difficult concept, is it, Ryan?
No, it's pretty straightforward, Grant. I think it's economics 101.
Well, one thing I'd say though, basically in response, hey, I took a lot of pictures with owners too. So
how about that?
So
there you go.
I'm equal opportunity. I know. I don't care who's paying me, who's not paying me. I'll take pictures with them. That's all.
Oh my gosh, you're a beauty. Jerry actually would take pictures with anybody that wanted to take a picture. It didn't matter. Just hey, sure, absolutely.
I've taken pictures with people that thought I was Gary Gerald. That's okay. That's I mean, I consider that an honor too.
The tough part, and this didn't happen very often but every now and then, you'd have the most sexiest female in the world come up to you and want to take your picture, and your wife would be standing 5 feet away and she'd be giving you that look. And I'm like, hey, you know what? She's a fan just like everybody else. The fact that she's wearing nothing and she's beautiful doesn't mean I can't take her. I have to take my picture with her. I'm doing my job. That sometimes got a little dicey,
Oh yeah. Beautiful smoking hot chicks need pictures too. Come on.
Oh my God.
It's America.
I'm serious, Ryan. That would happen sometimes, and it would be like, hey, I mean, you can't say no. You can't take 15 pictures with people, and then all of a sudden, this striking, beautiful, gal comes and she wants your picture, and you go, oh, I'm sorry, I can't, and then, the gal, and then they put their arm around you and they want to give you a hug. It's just like, oh my God, you're killing me over here, But that did happen.
Honey, it's in my job description. It's in my job description.
Well, the thing, my wife, the only thing she ever said, she said, you sure do seem like you're enjoying it a little too much. And I said, well, just exactly how much am I allowed to enjoy it? We'll go from there. I can didn't adjust.
Oh my gosh. Again, we are so happy. We're so happy that you have joined us here. Don't forget that we'll be on at halftime, and we will also be on after the game as well. Yes, we do have some thoughts. Okay. No, and then a capital N and a capital O. So do we have some thoughts? Yes, the thoughts are no. There's a reason why he's not in the league. Unbelievable. You want to have your team go south in a hurry? Go out and sign DeMarcus Cousins, okay? Just do that. All right. You should notice how the other two gentlemen are staying silent on this. They're like, well, we'll let Grant talk for us on this one. All right.
Well, I think it'd be a mistake. Because he'd with DeMarcus, whether he can get back to close to what he was even the last year he played off as a reserve, he'd have to play a different style. You can't play the transition game that you're playing now, the fast pace, because he can't play the fast pace.
You'd be playing 4-on-5.
Yeah, I mean, that much is a fact. Now, whether he could help a team that plays a slower pace or more of a 5-man game, low post type game, then maybe he could help. But the type game that the Kings are playing now and been very successful with, there'd be no advantage that I can see.
Yeah, and Jerry, just to even double down on that point, let's take away DeMarcus in the locker room and what dynamic that brings in. DeMarcus, Kings fans are asking for a shot blocker, right? That's not going to be DeMarcus at this point of his career. No. He's going to be hanging around the three-point line. So it would be of no benefit to bring him in, but style of play is exactly right.
Yeah. Just so you know, I agree with this one. I would rather have Jerry Reynolds take a roster spot. I would agree with you. I'd rather have Jerry on the roster too. I think Jerry would be a very interesting kind of a secret weapon out there on the floor. I think you could use him as a decoy a lot. I think Jerry would be a great decoy to have on the floor.
I'll tell you what, I'd like the veteran minimum. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
I would. I'd sign for that in a minute, and then just hope somebody injures me quickly.
Hey, by the way, DeMarcus Cousins was not really good for Denver. If he was really good for Denver, he would still be on Denver. Just think for a minute. If he was so good for Denver, playing for a coach who loved him, how come Denver didn't make any overtures to keep him in the offseason? As soon as the season was over, they were like, bye.
Yeah, they signed DeAndre Jordan.
Jordan, right.
Jordan.
Yeah.
I mean, they signed DeAndre Jordan of a longtime center as their backup to Jokic. So
that's correct. Again, this is not
there's
hard.
That.
Think a little bit. Right. It's unbelievable. All right. So we're going to get off on another topic. All right. So let's get back to the game tonight. I doubt it's going to be in the 130s. I mean, I don't see this game being in the 130s. You don't very often get an NBA game where both teams score 130 or more. But I do think we'll get both teams into the 120s tonight. That I do think.
Yeah, both teams are going to score a lot. I mean, because neither team plays strong defense, and both teams have some good offensive players. So I agree. I mean, I think, it's going to take 120 to win. I think you might get by with 118, but I think 120, 122, 124, something like that, it will take to win.
What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, I think you guys are right. If it does get into the 130s, it's going to be a big blowout, and the Kings are going to have a huge night behind the three-point line. But I think we're looking at probably about a 128, 119, 120 game, ultimately with the Kings winning and coming down to free throws at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we're really looking forward to the program that we have the rest of the day as halftime. All right, Ryan and I will do a halftime show talking about the first 24 minutes, and then we'll be on after the game as well. So we're looking forward to all of that. If you are joining us right now on the stream, please subscribe and hit the like button if you like what you're seeing. I don't know how you couldn't like seeing Jerry Reynolds, and we won't even talk about Ryan, but I got a legend on the screen with us, Ryan. So you got to hit the like button,
Amen. So I got to ask the two of you a question. Since we were talking about signing Jerry, have Grant and Jerry ever played a one-on-one game?
No.
No. Of course, the age thing came in there a little bit. I by the time we could have played, we couldn't play.
We played tennis all the time. We did play tennis all the time, though. And they
Okay.
played tennis all the time. We played tennis almost, whenever we could during the season. We were always out playing, and we played in the summer sometimes when we were stupid. We were out playing some days, and I really mean this, when it was 105, 108, and we were both going, boy, we're really stupid for being out here. We still played, though. We really did. Jerry, when you look back, honestly, some of those days that we played in the middle of the day with the heat, we were like, what the hell are we doing out there,
Yeah, it wasn't very smart, really. Wasn't
Yeah.
very smart. And, I played a lot of tennis till I was in my early 60s, and I was just getting hurt all the time. And my wife pointed out that, you play one day, then you're hurt for a week.
Yeah.
How smart is that? And I said to myself, not very. And so
Ryan,
that's kind of
yeah.
that's kind of why I quit playing, and kind
Yeah.
of just, I'm a walker, and I generally don't get hurt too often walking. Not
Ryan,
too often.
Ryan, Jerry put an undercut on the ball. He would have you running all over the damn court. It was the damnedest thing in the world. He was really good at that. Jerry also knew that there were times when he would serve to me, make sure he doesn't hit it to my forehand because the point would be over rather quickly. I tried to, not hit it to his forehand. I wasn't accurate enough, and that's what happened. And the reason I had that, hit with spin and stuff, I was self-taught. But basically, Ryan, I hit with all the force of about 11-year-old girl, and and my one skill was I could chase down balls until as I got older. I didn't have that skill. So yeah.
So it's not it wasn't the way that you're going to have a long-term tennis career.
Yeah, well, we did have fun. So no, we never did
That's
play
great.
one-on-one in basketball, but we definitely had some fun playing tennis. So guys, a lot of fun today. And again, we are looking forward to the rest of today. I'll be on Listen App here in a little bit. For those of you that do join me on Listen App, the app has been updated. I just updated my app a couple of minutes ago. So make sure you get the latest version of Listen App before you join us on the show today. Then back here at halftime, and then again after the game. And Jerry, I would think it's very safe to say that since we talked last, you have not gone up the hill to check on how things are in Tahoe. I think that's a pretty safe assumption, correct?
Oh, that's a very safe assumption, so we'll get up there when the roads get clear, probably next week sometime. Try to get up there for a day or so and just check on things. And do want to put in a little short plug here for our old-fashioned 3 that we do. Whitey Gleason, the Phantom, and myself do on Tuesdays and Thursdays on YouTube. You can get it, and Podbean, all that stuff. And, and it's basically what it is, a bunch of old farts sitting around talking about stuff they probably don't even know. But you might enjoy it.
All right. Sounds good. All right, Jerry, you have a very good rest of the day. Enjoy watching the game tonight. We'll talk to you next week.
I'll enjoy watching the game, and then I'll check in on you after the game a little bit.
Sounds good. You're always welcome to join us. You know that. If you ever want to join us,
thank you.
Just hit me a text.
Thanks, guys.
We'll put you on. All right. Take care.
Thanks,
All right.
Jerry.
Ryan, looking forward to the halftime. We're going to try this for the first time. So I hope we can get a lot of people that watch us during the halftime. We'll be on for, the 15 minutes, and then we'll come back on after the game.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. We'll just give you some quick insights,
Yep.
let you know what we're thinking, and some projections on the second half. And don't forget about our grading shows in the Super Chat with the postgame show.
Yep, absolutely. We're going to be doing the Super Chat. The person that makes the largest donation between now and the next 3 games after tonight will be able to join us here on YouTube. All right, buddy. We'll talk to you a little bit later.
Sounds good, Grant. Have a good one.
All right, you too. All right, we are coming to you courtesy of New Works Plumbing of Sacramento, locally owned for over 20 years. New Works has a fix for you for your plumbing needs and repairs. Just go to sacserviceplumbing.com or call the number on your screen. So what do you think, folks? Are we talking about a Sacramento win tonight? This is a Lakers team that is... Well, actually, Rich, I can consider yourself lucky from what I understand. Consider yourself very lucky. I would say that the Kings, after giving up 136 less than 2 weeks ago to the Lakers, it's going to be interesting. All right. It's going to be interesting to see what type of game that we have tonight. All right. So halftime tonight. All right. Halftime tonight. Well, I didn't know that Sabonis is now officially listed as questionable. We got a couple of people on the stream saying that Sabonis is out. I did not see that he's out. I'm seeing that as of 1 minute ago that he's listed officially as questionable. So is Matthew Dellavedova due to illness. Alex Len is out due to illness. So, we'll see. All right. And I'm still waiting on an update from LeBron. I'm still waiting on an update. He was listed as questionable. If Sabonis does not play, I don't see any way in the world the Kings win this game tonight. But let's wait and see. All right. He's not officially out based on the information that I have as of 1 minute ago. So we'll keep an eye on it. All right. We'll be on at halftime. I really appreciate everyone's support. Thank you very much. And again, don't forget to join us right here on If You Don't Like That, coming up at intermission and then following the game.